We'll take a look at this fresh manure patty right here. This it got a little bit of corn in it, but it looks good. You know, it's not too clumped up. It's not too clumped up, not too runny or anything like that. And so one of the things about looking at a manure patty is that when I look at a manure patty, if I see this right here, then I know it's kind of an old manure patty, because there's some kind of I think that it's because of some kind of a dung beetle. But like if you take a look at this manure patty, it's just essentially just been turned back into dust or into dirt. But this was an old manure patty. And when these dung beetles, when they get to the manure patties and they start doing their thing with the manure patties, they'll turn it into like that black dirt. So when I look at a manure patty, like this would be a fresh one right here. This is a fresh manure patty. I don't have any of that black dirt on it. So when it's got that black mounded up dirt, that means the manure patty's been sitting on the field for a couple of days at least, because the dung beetles have gotten to it. Here's a fresh one. So right now, these animals, their manure looks a little bit too clumped up, just a tiny bit clumped up. There's a bit of corn in it. So I gotta figure out, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do. I'm actually considering raising the amount of distiller grains that I'm feeding them. I know that from the information that I've been telling y'all and from the information that I have collected, but this is also what I mean by you just gonna have to take a look and figure out what's going on for yourself. You know, I say this all the time. You're just gonna have to take a look at it and figure it out for yourself. This is a very good example of what I'm talking about. Like when I look at these manure patties, from the information that I have collected so far, by myself, if I feed these animals any more corn, I've reduced the amount of corn that I'm feeding these animals from 3 buckets to 2 buckets. I've increased the amount of distiller grains that they're getting from 1.5 buckets to 2 buckets. When I give them 3 buckets of corn, they start pooping out a whole bunch of corn, a lot of corn. And if I feed them 3 buckets of corn and 2 buckets of distiller grains, they start having diarrhea. So from the information that I've collected, well, I mean, these animals, I would say that the average weight of my herd right now is probably about 450 pounds, about 500 pounds. This animal right here is about 500 pounds. Weighed him on a scale 2 weeks ago. I weighed him on a scale about 10 days ago. And he hit the scale at 485 10 days ago. So a majority, I would say that the average weight of this herd is probably about 500 pounds. And when I put them on a diet of 1-to-1 ratio by volume corn, they don't do very good on it. Or excuse me, when I put them on a 2-to-1 corn distiller grains ratio diet by volume, they don't do very good on it. If I feed them 3 buckets of corn and 1.5 buckets of distiller grains, they start pooping out a whole bunch of corn. And right now I got them on 2 buckets of corn and 2 buckets of distiller grains, but I'm actually considering going up to 2.5 buckets of distiller grains with 2 buckets of corn. Right now these animals are not having any sort of acidosis or anything like that. So I'm actually considering moving them up a little bit higher on the distiller grains. I know up until now I've been saying that from the information that I've collected, it's actually safer to feed the animals more corn than it is distiller grains. From the information that I've collected, from the information that I've read, it's safer to feed the animal, and it's probably correct. It probably is correct, but in the circumstances that I'm in right now, with what I'm doing right now, for me, it might be a better idea to just feed more distiller grains. It might be. I'll have to I'm gonna figure it out. And also, when these animals get put on grain, when they get a couple weeks ago, I was talking about this, but I've switched the protein supplement over from a forage to a grain. So when these animals are digesting grains, there's a different bacteria that colonizes their gut. Cattle, when they digest, the cattle digestive system is based on a fermentation. That's why cattle can digest grass and things like that. because their digestive system is dependent on a fermentation process, which is different than human beings. So these animals, when they get fed grain, when I switched their diet over from this is also one of the big reasons why I did it slowly, right? I put them on a Crete pellet for about a week. I put them on a Crete pellet for about 5 days. Then I switched them over to Distiller Grains corn, right? I did it slowly. I did that on purpose because I wasn't, I'm not looking to cause any sort of digestive issues in my animals. And so when these animals are being fed grain, there will be the bacteria that is in their rumen will be different. So these animals right now, I may actually put them on a higher distiller grains than corn diet for their grain portion. I'm actually considering. I'm gonna think about it because I don't have to feed them for another 12 hours. But I might put them on 2.5 buckets of distiller grains with 2 buckets of corn. Or I might actually even go 2.5 buckets of distiller grains and 1.5 buckets of corn. I'll have to figure out what am I gonna do. But the big thing with distiller grains, from my understanding, is that the sulfur concentration and the phosphorus concentrations in distiller grains are very high. So you got to be very careful with that. You don't want to be causing problems in your animals from feeding them too much phosphorus and too much sulfur. So yesterday I was taking a look at my financials. This morning I was thinking about it too. I was looking at my financials and I came to a realization that right now, with everything going on, it's only going to work out if I legitimately do if I legitimately put in the correct level of effort. I'm going to need to do things, Okay, so here's a way to look at it. I got 42 animals right now. I would say about 2 of my animals are plainer. I got 2 plainer calves, and then I got 3 calves with a wonky leg. So realistically, I got about 40 calves. I got 40 calves, and I got 60,000 in debt. I had 50,000 in debt, and then I paid 10,000 or I paid 15,000 for the option contract a couple weeks ago. So I got 40. I essentially have 40 animals with $60,000 worth of debt. So right now, with everything going on, it is only going to work out for me if I put in, if I push as hard as I can. I've talked, and I was taking a look at everything that I was doing, and I was like, for a couple of weeks, it was like I'm really not having any sort of life or death battle, right? I was talking about this, but I really do not want to ever be in a situation where I think like that. I was thinking about that, and I was like, that's a horrible place to be. And I've already talked about this, but if I legitimately, for my entire life, if all I wanted to do was sit on a 10-acre farm and make $10,000 a month, I could always come back and just do this. It's not a big deal. Like it's not like, oh my God, I left my 10-acre farm. Now I can't make, if I legitimately, if I go out into the world and I go, I want to go back to my 10-acre farm. I want to go back to my 10-acre farm and I'm just going to make $10,000 a month. Then I can always just do that. Nothing is stopping me. If I leave this farm, I can always just come back. And so I really do not want to be in a situation where I'm just lollygagging around, especially in my early 30s, right? I mean, that's a very horrible thing to do. It's like I finally found a way to make myself a large sum of money. Why wouldn't I go and make a large sum of money? Why wouldn't I do it? Right? I mean, I really do not want to be in a situation where I'm like, I'm just not having any sort of life. I would rather be in a situation where things are difficult for me, but I'm pushing as hard as I can and I'm making some progress. And a very realistic way to look at this is imagine like you're a power lifter. It's like, yeah, when you're training, you're not going to be maxing out every single day, but you should still be putting in the correct amount of effort, right? You should be eating properly. You should be doing the proper exercises. You should be, you should be doing all these things. You should not be in a situation where you're just sitting on your couch, right? You should not be in a situation where you're doing the exact same thing today that you were 2 weeks ago, right? Maybe you increase the amount of weight by 5 pounds or something. Make it harder on yourself, right? I mean, or you're not ever going to, you're not ever going to just keep breaking. You need to keep making things harder for yourself. That's what I told myself. Because I was like, in this situation that I'm in right now, if I'm being dead serious, like if I left my farm, I can always just come back. If I want to make $10,000 a month for the rest of my life and just have a very easy life, if that's what I want to do, I can always come back. There's nothing that's stopping me. Realistically, right? I mean, legitimately think about it. If I legitimately want to sit on a 10-acre farm for the eternity of my life and make $10,000 a month and just have an easy life, I can always just come back and do this. Nothing is stopping me. So I should push as hard as I can. I should, right? Because at the end of the day, what am I at risk for? Like $3,000 a month. I don't care about $3,000. I'm not going to say I don't care about $3,000, but the $3,000 a month is whatever, right? I mean, it's not going, I would rather invest the money into my business, into something that I understand, that I believe that I genuinely can make money on. Like, I would rather do that than just sit around with $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month of nothing. If I have $5,000 a month of cash, what is that going to, it's not going to do anything. Legitimately, it's like even right now I can pay for everything and I still have $4,000 or $5,000 a month left over. So, I mean, it's not like the money's, if I take the money and then I invest the money, then I can actually do something that I believe is, it's going to be difficult for me. Okay, so here, I'm actually going to do something, this preconditioning pen right here. If you see, it's actually connected to the barn. And I'm going to move some of the panels over into the barn a little bit and create a second preconditioning pen on the back side of this barn. And then I've decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase my herd size on this field. Right now I'm sitting on 42 animals, and I'm going to increase my herd size up to about 60 or 70. And how I'm going to do it is I'm going to create a second preconditioning pen in the barn right there by using some corral panels. And then I'm going to raise the 10 smallest. If I have any animals that I think that the animals just not going to make it back here, like if I believe that I put the animals back here and they're not going to make it, then I'm going to put them in the front yard. I'm going to put them in the front yard, and I'm going to have about 10 animals in the front yard. And if I create a second preconditioning pen in the barn, that allows me to have about another 10 animals too. About another 5 animals. And I'll put about 10 animals in the front. So I'm going up to about 60 animals. And I can also put another about 10 animals back here. If you take a look around, I mean, the animals are not cramped for space at all. These animals, if they go to the back of the field, I can't even see them. So, I mean, these animals, they are not cramped at all. I could realistically even go to 100 animals and it would not be that big of a deal. I could legitimately double the number of animals that I have on my field and it would not even be a big problem. So, right now I got some grass back there too. I'm actually going to open it up because there's some water in the pond, and so it's not poo-poo water. So I'm going to open up the gate and let the animals out in the back too. I'm going to let them go walk around. And I've decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn a portion of the barn into another preconditioning pen. And then I'm going to start letting animals out in the front yard. And I can also increase my herd size in the back. And then once these animals hit about, so right now the big goal for my farm is that, okay, so for the new property, I still need to get that fence built and I still need to get a well drilled. And the people, they want a proof of financing by October 31st. I don't need to finance the deal by October 31st. I don't need to finance the deal until about December something. But I need to show them that I can pay, right? And so I'm gonna so I got a lot of things that I just got to kind of balance together and get it in. And this is what I mean by I need to push as hard as I can, and every once in a while. Okay, so imagine it this way. Like if you want to be a cattleman, right? Let's say you legitimately want to be a cattleman and you understand the situation that you're in. If you do not perform at a world-class level, you will not even get an opportunity. Legitimately, that is the situation that you're in. You realize the situation that you're in. Well, how do you figure out if you're at a world-class level, right? I mean, you can, you're going to have to compete. You're going to have to step up and do something and then see what you can do. You're going to have to max out at the bar. Every once in a while, you'll have to max out, right? I mean, you will legitimately have to push as hard as you can to the point where you think you're going to pass out. Every once in a while, you will have to do it. And depending on how much weight you can move, will legitimately, it's a finite number. And this is also what I mean by, the thing about the cattle business is that cattle is a global commodity. It does not matter where you are, you can get money for cattle almost anywhere. And so one way that you can gauge how good are you at the cattle business is to see how much money are you making in the cattle business. That's one way that you can do it. Because at the end of the day, if I make $1 in the cattle business and somebody else makes $1 in the cattle business, then we both made the same dollar. We both, I mean, it's not like it's not like making money in the cattle business was easier for me than it was for anybody else. It is just as hard for me as anybody else. Right? I mean, realistically, think about it. And this is what I'm talking about. When it comes to the cattle business, one way to realistically gauge how good are you at the cattle business is to see how much money you are making. I'm not saying that money is the most important thing. Like, you should not be going out of your way to just like do horrendous things for money. But at the end of the day, like if you got a farm, like, I've already told you my whole big idea. It's like, realistically, when you look at my farm, the conditions for my animals are drastically better than most commercial farms. I can almost guarantee it. If you take a look at my farm, and then let's say you go to the grocery store and you buy beef. Let's say you go to the grocery store and you buy a T-bone steak. If you traced that T-bone steak back to the feed yard that the animal came from, I can almost guarantee that the living standards for my animals are drastically higher than the animal that you just consumed. I can almost guarantee it. Like, if you go to the grocery store right now and buy a pound of beef, you buy a pound of T-bone steak, and you trace that T-bone steak back to the farm that it came from, I can almost guarantee that the conditions on my farm are drastically better. Drastically. I mean, we might be talking like 100 times better on my farm than on that commercial farm that you purchased your beef from. It legitimately, my living conditions here might be 100% better. Might be 100 times better. And so, when it comes down to it, and I actually, it's like, I've already said, like, if you're a moron, keep it to yourself, right? Like, oh my God, if you want to be a vegan, then go and be a vegan. I'm not saying that everybody needs to eat meat. I'm not saying that at all. If you want to be a vegan, then go and be a vegan. I'm not telling you to not be a vegan. Right? But you also got to understand that if you go and buy beef from the grocery store, you're going to be eating an animal like this. I can almost guarantee it. If you traced your animal back to the feed yard that it came from, the animal's going to look a lot like this. These are commodity type animals, right? These are essentially just regular old beef animals. And I can almost also guarantee that if you trace your beef back to the farm that it came from, the living standards on that farm that produced that commercial beef are going to be drastically worse. I mean, drastically worse than what you see here. I mean, you might see, 100 animals stuffed into a barn like that. And they're sitting on a rubber floor that's got slits in it, and they're pooping through the floor. That's legitimately where you might be buying your beef from. So it's like, when I take a look at my business and all these things, I always say, and I've always said this too, but find your peace with God. Don't ask anybody for an opinion. If you're going to ask somebody for an opinion, make sure that they actually know what they're talking about, right? I've always said this, like, don't go and start taking advice from Billy Joe. How is Billy Joe Bob supposed to know anything about this? He wouldn't. She wouldn't. Right? And so ask somebody who actually knows. And I've already talked about this, and I've already said the whole idea is that if you're in a situation where you legitimately just kick everybody out your life, and you go out and you make it, the people who actually care for you will be glad, that will be happy for you that you made it. Even if you kick them out of your life, when you make it, people who actually care for you will be happy that you made it. So, you know, just 100% kick everybody out your life. Everybody. And then just go and start, you know, start doing something. Make yourself somebody. You know, turn yourself into a somebody. You know, and then when you make it, the people who actually care for you, they'll actually be happy for you at the end. They will. I can almost guarantee it. And so you got to understand that. And these animals right now, the big idea for my business is that I got that new field, but that new field, I was taking a look at it, and there's a lot of brush on it. There's a lot of brush on it, but there's also a lot of grass on it. And so right now, the big idea is that I'm gonna have to get somebody over there to mow it. I'm gonna mow it, and then I'm gonna spray some kind of a broadleaf herbicide, maybe like a 2,4-D or a Duracor, and then I'm gonna fertilize it, and then I'm not gonna plant anything, because if in the winter time, I might just go over it and broadcast a little bit of ryegrass. But as of right now, I took a look at the field. What I need to do on that field is, first I need to dig up water, and I need to finish the fencing, and then I need to mow it. I need to mow it down real low. I need to spray some kind of a broadleaf herbicide. Then I need to fertilize it, and then I can put cattle on it. And so over there on that field, I'm going to start, depending on how much grass that I have, the whole idea for that field is, depending on how much grass that I have, I can move cattle from here over there. Because I really do not want to be in a situation where I'm feeding animals up to 850 pounds on a commodity mixed feed. I just don't want to do it. Right now, I'm going to do it. Okay, here's the big idea for the plan right now is that I got about 40 cattle. When it's all considered, I got about 40 cattle, and I owe about $60,000, because I also had to send money over for the option contract. I sent $15,000 over for the option contract, and so when it's all considered, I got $60,000 worth of debt, and I got 40 cattle. And so right now, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to section off a piece of the barn to make a second preconditioning pen. I'm gonna raise about 10 animals in the front yard, and then I'm gonna feed these animals up to a higher weight. I've already talked about this in the past, but for me, if I realize that when I look at my numbers, if I'm in a situation, well, it's a multi-dimensional situation. If I believe that I'm in a situation where I need to increase my margin per animal, the way that I do it is by increasing their total weight. This only really works, but it's like when you're going to increase their total weight, what are we talking about, right? Are you going to put them on grass? Are you going to put them on feed? Well, if you're going to put them on grass, what's your weather look like? What's your grass quality look like? If you're going to put them on feed, how much are you paying for feed? How much are you going to feed them? And even when it comes to the animal, it's like, what kind of animal do you even have? Do you have, are we talking about a 450 pound commodity type animal? Is that what we're talking about? I mean, what are we talking about, right? I mean, what kind of animal do you have? What kind of food are you going to put them on? How is your grass quality, etc., right? What does the local commodity market look like, etc., etc.? And so right now, I got a lot of feed. And I got it for very cheap. And so I'm not going to make a lot of money taking these animals up to 800 pounds, but I will make some money. And I need to get this food fed. And so I need to get the feed put into these animals. And when I get the feed put into the animals, I'll be making a little bit of money. And I got some grass. I need to think about that too. I got some grass, and so it'll be okay. All right, I'm going to put these animals on the grass. I'm going to feed them, and I'm going to increase the size of my herd by about 50%. And that will put me on the money train. It will put me back on the money train. I'll be back to making a large sum of money. And I'll be taking animals over to the new field. And right now, I took a look at my situation, and I was like, right now is not a good time to be sitting around thinking that life is going to be a la la land journey. It's not a good time, and it's actually not ever a good time to think, because over the last 2 months, it's like, I've just been working my 10-acre farm, right? I've just essentially just been working my 10-acre farm. I got the option contract for the new property squared away. I got that squared away already. Commodity feed prices are very, very cheap. So it's very easy for me to just sit there on my hands and think that, oh, well, life is supposed to be a magical journey. But life is never supposed to be a magical journey. I've talked about this repeatedly, right? Life is not a la la land. The world is not Disneyland, right? I mean, it's not a good idea to sit around going, oh, well, things are kind of easy, so I'm just going to take it easy. That's not a good idea. That's a horrible idea. Realistically, what's going on with me right now, I got 40 cattle. I got $60,000 worth of debt. I'm working on a 50-acre piece of property that I got under an option contract. I need to get my funding. I need to get proof of funding by October 31st. I need to get funding done by December 20th or so. I mean, I got a lot of things to be doing. Why am I sitting on my hands thinking that life is a la la land journey? Here's what I mean. If I legitimately just want to work on a 10-acre farm and make $10,000 a month, if that's legitimately just what I want to do for the entirety of my life, then I can always just come back and do it. Right? Like if my whole life, if that is legit, and if that is what you want, then I'm not making fun of you, right? I'm not. I'm very happy for you. If that is genuinely what you want, then that is okay. I understand what $10,000 a month is. You can essentially do whatever you want, and granted that you don't have major problems, you can essentially do whatever you want, right? I understand that, right? If you want to make $10,000 a month and you just want to sit there with your $10,000 a month, I understand that. That's not a bit. I'm not making fun of you. I'm very happy for you. But for me personally, I think that if I sit on my hands and make $10,000 a month for a long time, I don't think that I'm going to be very I think I'm going to get very agitated. I honestly, I was taking a look at my situation, and I was like, over the last 3 months, I think I brought home about $55,000 over the last 3 months. $50,000 over the last 3 months. What's 12 grand plus 7 grand plus 7? What's 12 grand plus 12 grand? That's 24 plus. I brought home about. Oh wait, excuse me. I brought home about $40,000 in the last 3 months, and I was like, well. I don't really, and it was actually very easy. It was very easy for me, but here's the thing, it's like, imagine it like powerlifting, right? It's like I believe that me personally, I believe that it is good for me to challenge myself. I should not be in a situation where I'm doing something that's easy and I'm doing it because it's easy. And okay, actually, here's a very good way to put it. If you're making $10,500 a month, if you're making $12,000 a month, and it's very difficult for you, and it's a hard challenge for you, then don't even worry about what I just said. Then continue to challenge yourself. If $10,500 a month is the weight that you can move on the bar, then continue to challenge yourself. I mean, continue to make $10,500 a month. But I'm just gonna be honest, I made like what, $13,000 a month over the last 3 months, and it was very easy. I mean, it was unbelievably easy. I believe that if I sat here and just made $13,000 a month for the rest of my life, I would be very agitated, because I feel like when I go out and I do something difficult, it requires a certain level of exertion. Like, you need to legitimately like put your balls on the line and push as hard as you can. And I believe that it does a lot for me mentally. I believe that it actually makes me mentally a healthier person. Like when I'm in a situation where it's like, I'm looking to increase my herd size by 50%. I got a real estate contract that I'm working on. My business, my numbers are running a little bit tight, but my numbers are running tight because I'm looking to push my business forward. When I'm in this situation, I actually feel a lot better about my life. I'm just going to say it. I feel a lot better. I actually feel a lot better right now than when I'm just making $12,000, $13,000 a month and sitting on $6,000, $7,000 a month cash. I feel much happier. I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna say happy, because I don't think happy is the right word, but I feel like this is more of what I should be doing. Because if I sit around and I make $12,000, $13,000 a month, and let's say I just have an excess of $7,000 a month cash left over, it's not a good feeling. I'm gonna be honest, it is not a good feeling. I get very agitated. I'm just sitting there. It's not difficult at all. I mean, it's way too easy. I mean, it's just not a good feeling, right? Because it's like I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh well, this isn't hard. This isn't hard, and it's just not a good feeling. And so I personally feel better about my life when I'm in a situation like I am right now. My money's running a little bit tight because I'm pushing my business forward. I got a real estate contract on the line. I got a real estate contract that I'm working on. I'm looking to increase my herd size by 50% over maybe the next 2 or 3 months. When I get my new field squared away over the next year, I'm going to be about tripling the size of my herd. I got all these things, and I'm also looking at buying the field next to mine as well. That's coming up that's coming up as well. I'm looking to buy the field next to mine as well. I'm looking to buy about 122 acres. I feel a lot better in this situation than I do. I'm just sitting in my living room making $12,000, $13,000 a month. I feel a lot better in this situation than I do in that situation. I'm just gonna that is what I personally really, I'm being 100% honest. I feel a lot better like this than I do if I'm just sitting there lollygagging. I just do personally. I do. I don't know. I'm not saying that this is how you need to feel, but if you are in a situation where you are making $10,500 a month, and it is actually a challenge for you, like it is, you are actually having to exert yourself to a point where every once in a while you feel like you're going to pass out. Legitimately, I think powerlifting is a very good example of this. If you look at powerlifters, they'll be doing what they're doing, but every once in a while they need to hit that bar real hard, right? I mean, they need to hit that bar so hard that they legitimately, it's like, they start bleeding. They start, they legitimately look like they're about to pass out, right? And that is what I believe that I feel better like that. I don't really want to be sitting on a sofa, eating a donut and drinking a coffee, collecting $7,000 a month and just calling it a day. I don't want to be like that. I don't feel happy that way. If anything, I feel very agitated if that's happening. I don't feel happy. I'm not going to say I really even feel happy right now. Happiness, I don't, it's like, what is happiness? Is like happiness what you feel when you do a bunch of drugs? Is that what, I don't understand. Like, what is happy? Like I feel like me, when I wake up in the morning, I feel like I need to get after it. I feel like I got a lot to do. I feel like I'm getting somewhere. I feel like I need to push as hard as I can. I mean, what is happiness, right? I mean, is happiness, what is happiness, right? I mean, is happiness what you feel when you do a bunch of drugs? Is that what happiness is? Is happiness? I don't know, and I don't really care for it. I don't really think that happiness is that important. I think that if you get up in the morning and you do something for yourself and you find your peace with God, and you go and you do your work and you realize that you're doing that, it just is what it is. I mean, then that for itself, it just kind of puts you in a good situation mentally. That's what I think, right? I mean, I've told you what I think about the cattle business. I've told you about and here's the thing, and I've already talked about this like 20,000 times too, but most people should not be starting a business. If you told me that you were going to start a business, I could probably tell you with 93% accuracy if your business was even going to make it. I could probably tell you. Like, what is your business plan? Tell me, right? And I could probably even tell you right out the gate, if your business was going to fail from the very start, I probably could. I've already talked about this, but most people should not be starting a business. I don't know why you decided that you wanted to start a business. Do you understand that the people who know business, they understand, people who start a business, we all understand that in the world of business, starting a business is the hardest thing that you can do in the business world. Why would you want to start a business? If you're in a situation where you're like, I got about $1,000 and I want to leverage $100 a month for a $10,000 loan, I'm going to go and I'm going to purchase 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame animals. I'm going to take a look at the feeder cattle market, take a 10% deduction, cut the number in half. I got a field that is about 7.4 pH, that if I put a 5:1:3:1 NPK sulfur ratio fertilizer on, and the weather in the afternoon is 75 to 85 degrees, and I get 3 to 4 inches of rain a month, I can essentially grow grass at maximum biomass accumulation. And if I grow grass at maximum biomass accumulation and I leverage my $1,000 for 10 grand and I got 10 months of financing, then I can go and I can purchase 10 animals and I can turn my $1,000 into 4 grand, into 5 grand in 5 or 6 months. If that is you, then sure, go and start your business. Because you're not really at risk for anything. You're at risk for what? 10 grand, right? I mean, you're not. And what are you having to pay for the 10 grand, $100 a month? Then sure, go and start your business. But I can almost guarantee, when most people, if you put everybody in a room, everybody who says that they want to start a business, if you put them all in a room, 99% of them should not even be starting a business at all. 90% of them are going to fail. 9% of them are going to barely make enough to get by. And at that point, it's like, why did you even start a business? You should have just gotten a better job. You should have just gotten a better job. You wouldn't have to have had this life or death battle over mediocrity. You would not have had it. You could have just gotten a better job, and then you would have made the same amount of money. You would have had benefits. Go be a police officer. Go be a firefighter. I don't know. Go be a teacher, right? Go be something. I mean, a government worker, something, right? Go and do something. Go and get a forklift license. I don't know, right? I mean, go and do something else. But please, for the love of God, do not start a business. Right? I mean, it's like, why did you decide that it was a good idea for you to start a business? Probably because you're a moron. Let's just be honest, right? If everyone who says that they want to be a business person, they want to start a business, if you put everybody in a room, 90% of them are going to fail. They're going to fail. It might be now, it might be in 50 years, but they're going to fail. Right? And failure to them might be, we legitimately worked on this business for 40 years. We retired and we have no retirement. And now we got to go and work as a cashier at a grocery store at 70 years old. That's what failure might look like for some of you. And you don't want to be in that situation. I've seen it happen to a lot of people. It's like they started a business. They held on to that business, life or death, for like 30 years. Barely made enough to make an average middle-class living, and then when they retired 30 years later, they had no retirement, and now they're a cashier at a grocery store. That's what failure might, and it's like, are you sure? Have you considered what you're talking about? Right? It's like, you could have gone and been a police officer, a firefighter, a teacher, a forklift operator, something. And you could have made the same amount of money and also had benefits, and you would have only worked 40 hours a week. You could have been somebody who, let's say that you take a look around and you actually find a rich person and you value add onto their business, and you find a way to make yourself an extra $30,000 a year doing about 30 hours of work a year, right? You work 30 hours a year and you make 30 grand extra money. At that point, you could even be a cashier at a Walmart. If you were a cashier at a Walmart and you found a way to make an extra 30 grand working 30 hours a year, then you could be a cashier at Walmart and still have a middle-class life. You could still be making like $55,000 a year. You would be making more money than the average person. And it's like, and I can almost guarantee whatever business that, like, if you put everyone who says that they want to start a business in a room, I'm just going to say it. Almost nobody should be starting a business at all, ever. I mean, it's like, have you really even thought about what you're talking about? Right? I mean, why do you want to start a business? If I legitimately told you that you could go and you can make you could have benefits and make a salary, and would you still rather want to have your business? I mean, be honest. Would you? Probably not. I mean, I don't know why you decided that you wanted to start a business, but chances are you wanted to start a business because you're an idiot. I mean, and you should not be starting a business. And, it's like if you started a business and you started losing money, then you should probably turn the key on your business. It's not going to get better. It's never going to get better. If anything, it's going to get worse. So if you started a business, and let's say you started a retail business or whatever, you started a retail business and you realize after 1 year that it's just not getting any better for you. You're barely making enough to get by. Let's say you start a retail business, right? Let's say you start a retail business, and after 6 months, it's like over the last 6 months, we've lost money every month for the last 6 months. Then turn the key on your business, shut it down. Go and get a job. Go and get a good job. Go and get some kind of a salary job. If you're in a business and it's like it's been a year, it's been 3 years, and you barely made enough to get by, then turn the key on your business. Shut it down. It's not going to get any better. Go and get a job. Go and get a decent job. I mean, go and work at Amazon, right? I mean, go and work at I don't know. I mean, go and do something. But don't run your business anymore, because chances are if you're in a situation where you're barely making enough to get by, you're not going to hire anybody. Who are you going to hire? You don't have any money. So you're essentially at the place of business every single day, 7 days a week. You can make the same amount of money and have benefits if you just went and got yourself a decently good job. So turn the key on your business. Shut it down. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. If you do not consider the money, when you're in business, and if you do not consider the money, then you should probably not be in business. I've already talked about money. Money is not everything, but you need to be thinking about money. If you're going to be in business, you need to understand whether you're making money or not. And if you're not making money, then you're not making money. If you're losing money, then you're losing money. It just is what it is. I mean, you're just going to money is just a number. I mean, you're going to have to take a look at it and see what's going on with it. If it's going up in a vertical line, then it's going up in a vertical line. If it's going down, like it's going downhill, then it's going downhill. If you're barely making enough to get by, then you're barely making enough to get by. Take a look at it for what it is. And it's like, if you got a business and you're barely making enough to get by, then turn the key on your business, shut your business down. Go and get a better job. If you're losing money, definitely shut your business down. It's not going to get any better. Right? If anything, it's going to get worse. So turn the key on your business, shut it down, go and get a job. You can get a salary, and you can get a salary with some benefits. Go and be a salesman at a car dealership. Right? I mean, go and do something else. For the love of God, go do something else. Because you don't want to end up in a situation where you legitimately hold on to this worthless idea for 30 years, and you wake up when you're 70 years old and it's time, and you legitimately can't do anything. You legitimately are in a situation where you're like 70. And now you got to go and work as a cashier at a grocery store because you don't have retirement. You don't want to be in that situation. If you want to start a business, for the love of God, think about what you're doing. Are you sure you actually want to start a business? If you put everybody in a room who said they wanted to start a business in a room, 90% of those people have they have no reason to start a business at all. No good reason, none at all. Your business is a horrible idea from the very beginning. 9% of people are barely going to make enough to get by, and at that point, you might as well just have gotten a job. And then 1% is going to succeed. And then out of those 1%, one person is going to take the top spot and legitimately just start raking in large amounts of money. That's how capitalism works. That's how it should work. I've already talked about the idea of a capitalistic society, is that you cannot give money to people and expect it to just turn into a La La Land adventure, right? I've already talked about this. Because if someone is having money problems, they might be having money problems because they're a moron. And if you give them money, it's going to make their situation worse. You cannot just give money to people and expect it to work. If I could legitimately just show up and be like, and here's the thing, it's like, even me on this cattle business, I've legitimately gone through great detail on how I run my cattle business, right? I've legitimately gone through like every single detail. How do I run my business? How do I make real estate contracts? Well, how much do I pay for my cattle? How do I know how much I'm going to get for my cattle and how much am I going to pay for my cattle? How do I estimate it? Right? The commodity markets. I've talked about all of these things. There is legitimately nothing more that I could possibly do to actually help anybody. I've legitimately given everything that I do away for free. I've given all the information away for free. How do I grow my grass? Everything. And it's like there's nothing more that I could do to possibly help anybody. And so, it's like at the end of the day, it's like if you want to go and be a cattleman, then go and knock yourself out. I mean, if you want to go and run a business, then go and run a business. But I can almost guarantee if you want to go and start a business, if you want to go and run cattle, I mean, just understand, actually take a look at what you're doing, right? Are you sure you actually want to start a business? And here's a very realistic way to look at it. If I offered you $100 an hour, I said, I got a work opportunity here. I'm looking for a lot buyer. Let's just say I'm looking for a lot buyer. Right now I'm in the process of I need to buy about let's say I need to buy 1,000 head of cattle a year. I need to buy 1,000 head of cattle a year, and I will offer a $50 commission per animal. I will offer you a $35 commission per animal. And it's like, if I offered that to you and it was like you were going to work 3 days out of the week and you were going to make let's say you were going to work 3 days out of the week, or you were going to work 3 days out of the week to get this done. And it's like, at the end of the day, you make $35,000 a year, right? I need 1,000 head of cattle a year. This is the type of cattle that I want. And I'm going to offer a $35 commission per animal. That's $35,000 a year, right? And it's like you work what, 3-4 hours a day, 3 days out of the week. So you essentially work 12 hours a week, and you make $35,000 a year of extra income. If you were offered something like that, would you still want to start a business? Just think about it. Sit there and think about it, because there are a lot of opportunities out there in the world like this. You could legitimately go into real estate, become a real estate agent, and make like $35,000 a year, and you would work like 30 hours a year. Not even 30 hours. You would work like 30 hours a year, and you would make like 30 grand. And it's like, are you sure you still want to start your business? If I told you right now that you could, like, let's say you double timed it for me, right? Let's say you doubled it up for me. You became my real estate agent and my lot buyer. And it's like, now you're working what? 12 hours a month. You're working 12 hours a week, and you're making $65,000 a year. Are you sure you actually even still want to start your business? It's like you're working, 14 hours a week, and you're making $65,000 a year. Are you sure you still want to start your business? think about it. Most of you probably wouldn't. And this is what I mean by a lot of people, when you get into a situation where it's like you get somebody who's actually who's just convinced themselves that they want to start a business. The only reason you think that the big reason is probably you want to start a business. You're saying you want to start a business because you want to make some extra money. You don't actually want to start a business. You just want to make some extra money. And it's like, let's say you just doubled up. Let's just say you doubled up responsibilities, right? Let's say you became my real estate agent and you became my lot buyer. You worked 15 hours a week and you made $65,000 a year. Do you still want to start a business? Be honest. Do you still want to start a business? Probably not. All right, let's just, you probably don't, right? Just take a look at it for what it is. If you've started a business and you're barely making enough to get by, then turn the key on your business. Go and get a job. Go and get a salary. You can get a salary. You can get health insurance. You can get benefits, retirement plans, whatever it may. You can get all of it. Whatever it may be, right? If you've been in business for 3 years and your business has barely made enough for you to get by for the last 3 years, then turn the key on your business. Shut it down. Just go and get a job. You don't want, you know, and you don't understand that if you really take a look at the world, and you go and take a look at the world, and you go to a grocery store and you see somebody who's greeting people at the front, and they're 75 years old, what do you think happened to that person? When you go to, let's say you go somewhere and you see a 70-year-old lady, 70-year-old woman working as a cashier, what do you think happened to that woman? Right? You don't want to end up in that situation. This is why I'm saying that you don't want to end up poor. You don't want, and I've already categorized poor in 3 different ways, right? You just don't have any money. Flat out, you just don't have money. Number 2, you don't have a retirement. And number 3, you cannot stop yourself from self-imploding. Because you'll get to 3 and then you'll self-implode, and then you'll go back to step number 1. And it's like, really think about it, okay? Just really think about it. If you actually, like, and think about it this way. And here, when I get my farm squared away, and I've already got somebody, you know, I've already got a real estate agent, and, you know, and I'm actually, you know, I actually know somebody who's getting paid like this, right? I mean, it's not, you know, I'm not just pulling the stuff out of my rear end. I mean, you could do it. Legitimately, if you found a job where you worked 15 hours a week, and you made $65,000 a year, would you still want to start a business? Think about it. Would you still think that the things are unfair? Think about it. You probably wouldn't. Right? I mean, just take some time and think about it, all right? And that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.